Sean, I can stay for the full time if you want me to.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, is the meeting with Siobhan finished?
No, it's still on, but I was with her last night, and if I might just knock off 15 minutes earlier, but we'll see how things go.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, I might bring you in then if that's okay, because I think people would find it interesting, just to hear your perspective on the stuff on trade, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine. No
Great.
problems.
I wish there was some music playing.
I'm sure Shane can sing a song, can't he?
Yeah, the old CFAX music going shows a bit of age, but yeah.
I had to explain to someone in the office earlier what the Diet Coke advert was. That's bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hello.
Morning, everyone. We're just meeting the last few folks, and then we'll aim to start on time. Okay, I think we should make a start if that's okay with you.
Yep.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Well, welcome everyone and hello. I'm Carrie Sudbury. I'm the Chief Executive of the Barnsley and Rotherham Chamber of Commerce, and I'd very much like to welcome you all here this morning. Whether you're joining us for the first time or if you've been to one of these sessions before, it's great to have you with us. And I think it's overwhelming to see so many responses to the surveys that we send out, but also the interaction post-survey to listen to the results, understand the data, and essentially understand what happens next. I think it's testament to the teams and the business community that we're striving for a bit of change here. But if you're new to these sessions, here's what they're all about, essentially. So every quarter, the three South Yorkshire chambers, Doncaster, Sheffield, and ourselves, Barnsley and Rotherham, run a large survey quarterly economic survey, or the QES. You may have heard either phrase, to essentially get a real-time view of how businesses in the region are doing. It covers topics such as sales, recruitment, cash flow, confidence levels, and exporting, which gives us a real sense of the economic mood across the patch. And each quarter, we also focus on one key issue that's affecting business. And in the past, we've focused on areas such as transport, skills and people, the cost of doing business, town centres. I think that was an incredibly popular response rate for town centres, AI, access to finance, and business crime. And this quarter's hot topic is business growth and international trade. So this morning, you'll hear from Sian Booth, Policy Manager at Doncaster Chamber, who will take us through a comprehensive look at the results from Q2. And also you'll hear from two business leaders who will reflect on the urgent issues raised. John Patrick, Director at VacX Limited.
That's
I
it.
believe I've got that right, John. Apologies if I've not. A manufacturer of compact vacuum excavation equipment and safe digging tools. And So Hin Fong, Director of King Asia Foods, a family-run company known for its authentic Chinese and Asian products. There's also lots of opportunities throughout the webinar to ask questions, so please feel free to raise your digital hand and ask away. These sessions are meant to be really interactive, so please get thinking and ask any question that you deem necessarily or appropriate, of course. But before we dive in, I would like to give a personal thank you to our colleagues at Doncaster and Sheffield Chambers for the work behind the scenes to make these happen, and of course to Simca for all the support and allowing us to make these webinars series possible. So thank you ever so much from Barnsley and Rotherham. So enough from me. Can I pass over to you, Sian, if that's okay, if you're ready to do so, to take us through the results and the data. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Carrie. Really appreciate it. So this is my first one. I've stuck all the data in the chat as well, so you can have a flick through at your leisure going forward. But if you've got a brew, stick yourself on mute, and I'm going to flick through the highlights of this QES. So, and if someone could admit people as they come in, that'd be really great. So there were 403 respondents. It's really good. It's basically double the respondents of the last quarter, which was on planning as well. And you can find all of the data for all of the QESs going back several years on Doncaster Chamber's website. And you can see the field work times for the previous quarter as well. If it's handy for people to know, it's we've included the spread of profile respondents. I mean, generally, it's quite reflective of our chamber membership, to be honest. There's an over-bias in service as opposed to manufacturing. And as most of you will already know, a significant bias towards SMEs, and which is reflected in some of the insights that we've had coming through. So we have heard from businesses that they are ready to grow, but perhaps struggle with some of those conversations. It won't surprise anyone to know that there was a reaction to national insurance increases and the tax structure not encouraging growth at all. There seems to be some disappointment in how the government has behaved in terms of incentivising growth, particularly post-pandemic, and that is demonstrated in the results as well. So in terms of top priorities for growth from businesses, yeah, shock horror, they've all said that they want to increase sales. And I think, and then following that, it's building partnerships and increasing brand awareness. In terms of what we can probably do as a place, there is, I think, kind of an incentive here to broker more connections between local SMEs and anchor institutions, those large employers, and get those supply chains going. It's clear, I think businesses are looking for sales readiness programs, and particularly looking to invest in things like trade shows, more B2B events, meet the buyer stuff. Looking ahead, I think some of the top challenges are, by a whopping majority, are the economic conditions, followed by ever-changing and complex government policy. So I think that we could do more as a region to advocate for some of that flexible finance, energy support, and help businesses navigate some of these complex and evolving areas. In terms of where businesses are getting their support from, for those of you in the room who work businesses all the time, this won't surprise you either. Most businesses are looking local for where they get their information and where they get their support. So I think, you know, we've got some good chambers. We've got 3 excellent chambers in our region, and continuing to lean on the knowledge and insight that they can provide, but also supporting some of that high quality networking, sector specific forums. You know, we've got the HR forum, our marketing forum. I know Doncaster Council do work on construction as well. So kind of more work to map those local supply chains and make those local connections, and clearly leveraging some of that local insight, which is those trusted voices that businesses know well. Businesses said that they would value more support in business development, marketing, and people and skills. So it'd be interesting to look at, you know, potentially what that might look like in practice. Is it around growth planning, bid writing, customer acquisition? What areas of marketing are businesses looking to support with? I know obviously from a chamber we can support with all of those things, but is it digital marketing? Is it brand support? Is it e-commerce readiness? So I think more work needs to be done to kind of dig into some of that information. And obviously for those of you that already work in the skills space, this is a theme that's coming up again and again and again. Some of this work around leadership development, recruitment support, and tailored and targeted upskilling, which becomes relevant as we look through the slides as well. So I mean, interestingly, you can see here that 68% of businesses who were surveyed were not exporters, and of the 32% that were, no surprises again that tariffs and customs duties were some of the biggest barriers, followed by regulations and shipping and logistics. So quite a few businesses had made comment on this. So particularly those who export to the US, they've been hit with cost and tax rises. So they're and domestic trade has also decreased, and obviously this period covers the kind of first wave of Trump tariffs and that uncertainty, which is also driving stronger competition, especially from China, that are redirecting their sales from the USA to other markets. It'd be interesting, actually. I know we've got colleagues from Sheffield Chambers Trade Department to look at how we might support some of that greater awareness around support for navigating documentation, navigating tariffs and customs duties. I think it'd be interesting to look at how that ready to export stuff and demystifying some of the process. It's quite a low number of businesses that are exporting. I think particularly those that work in the service sector, and you'll see that insight, those that are not exporting, why they aren't developing some of those markets. And I think in terms of business capacity, there's a constant bias towards this proactive nature for pursuing overseas markets, as opposed to 34%, which is reactive. So of those who were not exporting, there's a real apathy around developing new markets overseas. So most of them said that they weren't interested. And I think that there could be more work done around promoting the viability and accessibility of international trade. And some of the deterrents, I mean, funnily enough, of the ones that didn't export, they were not saying things like tariffs and customs duties were the barriers. They were saying things like they just don't have the time, they don't have capacity to entertain the idea, they don't think it's profitable, they're really unsure of the demand. So there could be more work around export readiness programs, potentially building on some of the trade missions that I know Simca have already been doing, and you know, looking at more support services around legislation, international marketing, intellectual property protection, that sort of thing. And in terms of where businesses are getting their export support. Again, most of them are aware of the local support networks around there, but there could be some more work we could do nationally around, for example, engaging with overseas chambers to try and get some of that peer-to-peer support network and managing some of those barriers to exports. Okay, so we're now going on to the bit of the QES where we ask the same questions quarter on quarter, and it gives us a bit of a barometer of the economic health of the region. So if you're still with me, businesses have become more wary to invest in anything, and even if it accelerates growth, and you'll see those kind of cautious metrics coming out. We've had it's quite sobering, some of the feedback that we've got from businesses saying business is terrible, they mainly sell on e-commerce sites, and the impact of the kind of UK, those external factors and the wider uncertainty. When we get onto the bit about headcount, obviously, and this has come out in the news today as well, with unemployment figures rising for I think it's second or third month in a row, and this increase in NI and wage increases, and the Employment Rights Bill is reducing headcount and making the labour market stagnate or shrink. So businesses who are involved in the UK market over the past 3 months saw their sales increase 6%. I mean, I think that is good, but obviously you'll see it's over a period of steep decline in the last year anyway, but obviously it's a positive uptick. And I think looking at some of those local procurement opportunities and collaborating some of those kind of buy local, we're really good at having the South Yorkshire pound going round and round, although obviously money going round and round the region doesn't inspire growth either, so both those things need to be taken into consideration. Looking ahead at businesses involved in the UK market in terms of advance orders and bookings, that's up 8% as well, which actually does point to some of the business confidence figures that we'll see later on in the presentation. So this is where it gets a little bit more depressing, I have to say. Businesses involved in overseas markets over the last 3 months is down 18% quarter on quarter. It's the fall in export sales is its highest rate in almost 3 years. So it's well into negative here, and it's really disappointing to see, obviously, as the previous quarter did see an upturn. And in terms of advanced sales, it looks even worse. So down 21% quarter on quarter, well into negative, and it's at its highest rate of fall since Q1 in 2023. However, labour force in the last 3 months, the workforce has grown by 7%, and that rights some of this decline over the previous 3 quarters as well. And I think some of the wider work in the district around inclusive recruitment practices, particularly targeting people who are furthest from the labour market, supporting people into work, all of those initiatives are starting to bear fruit. So percentage of businesses who have attempted recruit is down 1%, and it's so if you look at the percentage of respondents that attempted to recruit over the quarter, it fell to its lowest rate since Q1 in 2024. So, but it has been steady anyway for the past 1, 2, 3, 4 quarters as it goes back. In terms of the percentage of businesses that have attempted to recruit, you'll see most respondents have attempted to recruit full-time positions, and recruitment to part-time positions fell to its lowest in over 4 quarters. I suppose it's interesting that you kind of marry that with some of the insight of businesses potentially holding back on recruitment, or maybe recruiting part-time staff instead of full-time staff because of the potential impact on it being expensive to recruit. But actually this insight kind of bucks that trend and says that's not the case. It'd be interesting to see how that follows through for next quarter. And I think this is also pretty sobering as well, and rings true in some of my work that I'm doing on the local skills improvement plan. So in terms of difficulties in recruiting, that's up 16%, and you'll see on the next slide that that is mainly in skilled and manual and technical roles. That will resonate with, I imagine, everybody on this call that knows this to be the case, and I think it really strengthens the requirement for some of the work that we're doing around skills deficiency in our area, and having really targeted, locally led, employer insight driven work around skills development and how that feeds into providers. Yeah, so obviously that's just what I'm saying in terms of where the big skill demands are. In that green bar you see at the end, the biggest upturn is for skilled and manual labour, followed by unskilled and semi-skilled work, not semi-skimmed. And I think, yeah, we're kind of united anyway in this work around productivity enhancing tools, automation, but also signposting people to some of those vacancies where they are available. So, however, the prediction from businesses is that in the next 3 months, they expect their workforce to grow by 10%, which is positive. And you can see that that prediction bucks the trend of the previous 3 quarters. So on cash flow, it is up 12% on the previous quarter, but it's worth remembering that it's still in negative, and up 12% on a pretty ropey period in the last quarter doesn't really say much. And if you think of cash flow as one of those determinants of wider business health, if your cash flow is not strong, you aren't investing in growing your team, you aren't investing in new equipment, plan, training. And so obviously, I think while this is welcome that it's up 12%, and we would hope in the next quarter it is still in negative, and that will have an impact on those other areas, as you see played out in this next slide, which is investment in machinery and equipment. It's up 2%, but nothing to write home about. And investment in training, again, up 2%, nothing to write home about. And it's a steady upturn after a decline over several quarters in a row. So in terms of businesses working at capacity, I think the slide kind of speaks for itself, that in terms of how businesses, the percentage of respondents operating at full capacity is its lowest for 2 years. And when we're having these conversations around productivity tools and workflow redesign, automation, looking at these results, it's really informed what will be our, no spoilers, the next QES is going to be on business readiness for AI and automation, because we do think there's more work to be done in this area. Just so that it's not all depressing, I think it's worth saying that business confidence is moving into positive. So businesses believe their turnover is likely to be up 6% on the previous quarter, and profitability is likely to be up 11% on the previous quarter. The next couple of slides are on some of those external factors, and I'd just like to say that all of these ring true with the national picture. So this data goes through the British Chambers network and joins a much larger national data set. When I was looking at what everywhere else in the country is saying, it's broadly similar. So most businesses expect prices to come down on the previous quarter. And where they anticipate most of those price pressures to be coming from, unsurprisingly, it's labour costs, utilities, and other overheads. What concerns you most than the last 3 months? Corporate taxation and inflation still ringing high, and there's very little confidence that that will change. Although competition, that it's not clear what's behind that figure. It might be some of what we were talking about earlier on in the presentation in terms of international markets moving in such a complex way thanks to this new position around tariffs, but that is something that we could look at as well. Okay, I'll just take a breath because I've just like bam, 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 out all that information. But I'd like to bring in our two speakers for today, who are two leading businesses in the region that can bring a bit of lived experience and a bit of insight. So, John, can I ask you to introduce yourself, please, if that's okay?
Should be off mute.
You are.
Okay, great. So I'm John Patrick Mee, Director of VACEX, based in Doncaster. We manufacture predominantly equipment for the construction utility sector.
Thanks,
Anything
John.
else? Yeah, I can keep going.
No,
But no, I'll stop there.
We'll get into it. We'll get into it in a minute. And can I introduce So? Or
Good
can you
morning,
introduce yourself?
everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm So Him Fong. I'm the MD of King Asia Foods. We're a food manufacturing business in Doncaster, and we also have a property development business. We also have a small chain of retail, and we have involvement in food service, catering, hospitality business.
Fabulous. Thank you both. So if anyone's got any questions that they want to ask of So or John, feel free to raise your hands or stick your questions in the chat and I can come to you. But I suppose I've just kind of got a couple to kick us off. So I don't suppose I can come to you first. Obviously, you've seen all the data. It's what you live and breathe. What does growth look like for your business right now?
If I may, I'd just give you a little bit of context about King Asia Foods and where we are now and where we've been. King Asia Foods is 40 years this year, so I consider ourselves to be a mature business to a certain degree, although we're still growing. So, and that's also the same for our property development and construction business as well. So, being in construction on that side has helped us to grow. So, so that's where the context is. So, where we are is in food manufacturing, we tend to grow in steps. We have surges in taking on businesses which takes up capacity, and we bed those volumes in and make sure that that is running okay, and then we go hunting for the next customer or sector to grow into. So for us, the COVID, Brexit, war, etc., a few years ago, saw a very, very, very busy time for us in terms of manufacturing for the retailers. And although the issues were supply chain, increased costs in terms of inflation, so margins took a hammering for a couple of years. So after that period, our margins improve, the supply chain improve, the cost of the input cost of raw materials and packaging and everything else stabilized and came down, so that our margins got back to normal. So after fairly turbulent sort of three and a half years, we sort of took on what projects that we were hoping to do pre-COVID in terms of identifying our gaps in the products that we were had, and in introducing more products. And we've done that fairly successfully. So we're going through another round of that in relationship to bringing on more products that the consumer, we believe, would like. So, and also part of that is we've identified areas from an export point of view, USA and Australia, where we believe we have a market, and if we can penetrate it with our products, then the way I've always seen it is you've got to start somewhere with these markets, and sometimes you have to revisit them a couple of times to start penetrating, because the first time, second time might not be always the right time for getting into these markets. And also from a growth point of view, we see that if we invest in implementing cost savings by investing in plant machinery and everything else, that adds on to our bottom line. So we see that as increased sales, because those savings drop straight onto the bottom line. So yes, we are starting more projects, and they are, and some will be quicker than others. Some will, and one of the things is we want to spend our hard-earned cash reserves or cash flow to get the biggest bang for what we invest in. So it's identifying those and then fine-tuning what we already do to fine-tuning in terms of production and processes to generate capacity, which should drop onto the bottom line. I'm not sure if that's enough for now.
No, thank you. To be honest, you're so positive, and I just wonder, given what we've heard in terms of business insight, do you in real terms face any of those barriers that were identified, or is it, you've got your eyes on the prize and you're going for it?
Always, my cup is always half full, if not overflowing.
Well, that is good to hear.
Yeah, I concur with a lot of the comments from the survey and everything else. For instance, I just got back from the USA 3 weeks ago. We had our importer partner, and they're shutting down, they're closing for all the examples of what you said in terms of increased supply chain costs, margins, and everything else. But is that going to stop me?
I'm just I'm going to bring in Nick Patrick from Sheffield Chamber. I don't know. Sorry to put you on the spot, Nick, but I wonder if any of this you can perhaps add comment to, or give some insight in your perspective of supporting exporters.
Oh, hi. Thank you, Sean. Yeah, it's hello. So that was a very interesting story, and hello, John, as well. We obviously deal with many companies, not just across South Yorkshire, but we actually deliver international trade services for most of the chambers across the country, including Scotland and Wales. So we deal with a huge number of companies who are obviously reeling a little bit from what's been happening over the past few months. But we are always looking at how we can help companies adopt absolute best practices. And one of the things that I keep coming up with as being a major solution is, if you are importing products as raw materials and using them then to sell on to another country, if they carry duty and you're not importing them from a country where we have a free trade agreement, you will be having those products will have a double duty cost attached to them, and the first importer, the import into the UK, can say, they can save this. And when So was talking about, wanting to take every single opportunity to do cost savings, which he considers to be growth, business growth, because it affects his bottom line. That is exactly what I'm talking about. So, for example, if you're importing a raw material from China, you're paying 6% duty on it, you're processing it, you're selling it to another country. They're paying 6% duty on it as well. So if you can stop the initial 6% duty that you're paying, that is a 6% positive to your bottom line, or your product can be 6% more competitive in the marketplace. If you're buying raw materials not to manufacture into something else, but to stock and then resell, maybe consolidate with stuff, exactly the same applies. So there are so many nuances that we can do to help companies be more profitable and consistent in this respect.
Oh, thank you, Nick, and thanks for just letting me rope you in. I'm going to come to John. Obviously, after everything that you've listened to, and you might want to take the time to say a little bit more about your business, because it's fascinating and really interesting. How important is exporting to your business model? How have international markets changed?
Okay, so I suppose to further introduce the company or what we do. So we manufacture equipment that effectively vacuums out the earth from around gas, water, fiber optic utilities in the footpath. So as you're driving along the road, if you see somebody excavating at the bottom of your street, near your factory, etc., and they're using an excavator, there's always a risk, a 360 excavator, mini excavator, whichever, there's always a risk of them striking the utility, knocking out your business, knocking out your house. So we produce this equipment, the vacuum excavators, to vacuum the material. So we work in gas, water, electric, power stations, nuclear, wherever there's cables, we're there. So airports, etc. So going back to your question, how important is exporting? Very, I would say very. We've really been exporting since 2010, but very on a minor scale. We've introduced various distributors, whether that be France, whether that's Netherlands, Germany, etc. And we've sold, ones, twos, threes, etc. And we've done that steadily for probably 10 years. But they've always, it's worked out at times where it takes away the peaks and the troughs from the business. So if there's a bit of a low in the UK, well, there's a bit of a high in the EU, or further afield in Asia, where we've sold as well. So it takes away the peaks and troughs. Now, there's not as much profit in exporting as, let's say, selling into our local market as UK, but it's a start. It's an experience. It's learning. It's generating contacts, understanding their marketplace, understanding what they need. So I suppose we've tried it. Now, recently, this year, we realised the importance. Well, not realised. We knew the importance, and we've formed a new business in Netherlands to get rid of a bit of the red tape as well. But formed a business in the Netherlands. We have a partner over there, a direct shareholder now. He's our business development manager, stroke country manager, if you want to put it that way. And we're having a real push. We've also exhibited at a big trade show in Europe recently this year. We can't supply what we've currently got. The business we can't supply. We have now a backlog just on our existing equipment that we manufacture, not including what we have in the pipeline to come through at the end of the year. So we're in a real predicament now.
Yeah, you've got all the customers, you've got all the demand. So what's stopping the growth?
The growth, primarily, it all comes down to money and investment at the end of the day. We have our cash flow. We have organically grown from, let's say, 2016, that when we actually let's say turned a profit properly. So from 2016 to today, we've organically grown. We've never really needed to borrow or invest. We've never needed to really knock on the bank's door and say, yeah, we need a whole stack of money. Now that's where we are probably today. We have put the questions out there to see with Business Doncaster. We are looking to get extra premises. We are looking to grow. However, we don't want to take away from the day-to-day business of what we're doing. There's a question there from Nick Patrick. I don't know if you want to jump in, Nick.
Well, all I wanted to say was that, there have been some quite a few developments recently. On the 26th of June, the government published their export strategy. And it was quite interesting there, John, because, one of the massive issues which are affecting companies is finance. Obviously, labour resources is another factor. But if you've got your marketplace set up in Holland, and that I know that is going to feed all of your European customers and generate growth through there, because I'm assuming you've got a Dutch VAT number.
Yes.
But the UK export strategy released a huge sum of money that you can now access through UK Export Finance. Now, there isn't anybody on this webinar from UK Export Finance, but I'm sure you probably know Manuel Fantin.
I've got a call. It's on my emails. I've got a call coming in the next 7 days from somebody. I'd have to check, to be quite honest, who it is.
Okay, but I mean, the key elements of that is, if you need a loan, if you need investment now in order to expand your market overseas that clearly you've set up, you go to your bank. They're going to ask for collateral. That could be dangerous in these risky times. UK Export Finance will underwrite that loan, so you don't have to put your business at risk. If you are concerned about export credit, then they will insure your export credit. They'll guarantee payments. So look, there are things in place. They're not be all and end all solutions, but they're there to help and assist.
It's funny though. Oh, sorry, John. Go ahead. Sam. Well, a lot of this conversation, it actually doesn't play out in the survey results though, because we know, overwhelmingly most businesses don't really have the time to look into all of this. They haven't got a Nick Patrick in their back pocket giving them all the best advice. They don't know whether or not it's going to be profitable. And, these are risky times where businesses are already running to standstill with cash flow still in negative. And I just wonder, kind of, especially kind of keen to hear from the resident optimist. So how do we further engage businesses, particularly who are selling services abroad and exporting, to understand that this is profitable. It is going to drive growth for our district. And, particularly speaking to the colleagues on the call who are working in economic development, what's our ask of our local support organisations, our local authorities, our chambers to help us support businesses better in this area?
Well, my take on exporting is it forms a basket of your business. And my experience of that is that it is hard work, and it does. It's like a sponge; it just absorbs resource. But for John, if you've got all the orders there and everything else, that to me it's a different type of problem to solve. Really, it's it's the capital
champagne problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
investment problem and everything else, and the buildings and everything else. Where I mean, I'm just hearing about your buildings issue. That's where, coming from a building and construction and development background, we had those resources in house to do it, and I know we're very fortunate to have that. But I mean, what a great position to be in, John.
It is. Don't get me wrong. It's not been easy getting to this position. It's taken a few years and a few sleepless nights. But I think getting here, or getting to the position we're in, could have been easier. It's we've grown, let's say, into exports organically. Everything we've done to get into exports really has been a bit of a slog, and I think there's no pardon me, Nick, but I don't see the massive incentives to export. I think there should be. We get helped as a business, as a manufacturing business, for R&D. So it's 15-20% real terms. And if we put £1 million in R&D, we might get £100,000 back, maybe 150 tops, real terms. If we do a patent, if we create a patent for one of our products, we will probably spend probably 20,000. It may then get granted, may not get granted, but we'll see that granting to come to fruition after about 3 to 5 years, if there's no objections. And then we will have what's called a patent box to claim some money against some of the profits that we've generated from that equipment or particular patent. That's great. So they're let's say two small incentives for businesses. There's no real incentive for the businesses to export. It is an absolute pain. It is very hard. It, like So said, it absorbs you. There's a massive amount of investment to go to put in. And yeah, we're going through that. We're going through that pain now. Now we're not growing as such. So we are, but we're not. We've pushed a lot of money into the Netherlands business this year, which we're seeing some fruits coming from it now. But that money, that cash flow, that pot of money has gone into that business, rather than being able to further expand our UK business. So yeah, that pot of money goes out of the UK, goes into the Netherlands. We're pushing cash into that, but I'm not going to say it stuns the growth in the UK, but it slows it down, because we haven't got that pot of money to put into a building, to put into training further staff, to put into additional equipment. We've got to look at other resources now to be able to grow everything. But it's not just the Netherlands that there is an opportunity, or Netherlands and Germany. There isn't there's loads more opportunities out there, but we can only grow at a rate where we can at this moment in time. It's hence us contacting the international. Sorry, as Nick said, I don't have it. The
UK Export Finance.
That's UK Export Finance people.
Yeah.
Did that last
John,
week.
Look, I hear everything you say, and believe you me, I am the loudest voice when it comes to funding and finance for business. You know, we used to manage the Internationalisation Fund for DBT in 2022. It finished in December 2022. We left the European Union to expand, to reduce our reliance on EU and expand our trade globally. What did they do? In June 2021, first year of Brexit, they withdrew all the funding. For our global network, the only fund they had available was the Internationalisation Fund, which was easy to access. That ended in December 2022, and there hasn't been anything since. And as I talk frequently to government ministers, and you know, one of my loudest calls is, you know, companies just do not have. It's all very well you doing these free trade agreements all over the world, but the SMEs cannot afford to make use of them, because what have they had? They've had Brexit, they've had the pandemic, they've had the energy crisis, now they've got the national insurance increase, etc. So you're absolutely right, and there is no you know, heavenly cure out there.
I just think that the government need to look at an incentive for exports. Now, if they said, okay, you know what, John, if you want to go, let's say we weren't in Europe. If they said to us, right, if you the day you first start selling into Europe, day one, 1st of January 2026, we will knock off your corporation tax for anything sold into Europe, not the UK, just Europe, for the first 3 or 5 years. So let us use that gives us an incentive to export. That gives us something, that gives us maybe a little bit of extra money to play with, to exhibit. Now, we exhibited at Bauma, which you probably don't know, but anyway, in Germany, that cost us about £200,000. We never got anything back from. Now, you probably claim a bit on this or that, but really, that's what it cost us. Now, we'll hopefully we are seeing some of the fruits from that, but that was a big gamble we took. We've got another one in Germany in September, Northern Germany. That'll cost us another £30,000. Hopefully, we'll get something from that, but we're not getting anything from the government. We're not getting anything. We're thankfully on we're on a path now. If we wanted to look at the US, we're constantly getting calls from the US and Canada. We had one yesterday. Can we buy your equipment? We haven't got a distributor over there. Well, can I come over and then I will take it back with me into camp? Look, we don't want to do that. We want to do it properly. If I wanted to do it in you, I can't. I can only do one step at a time. And I've, probably got a business shelf life now of maybe 10 years. And then but let's do what I can do within these 10 years.
Yeah.
Make use of me. But unfortunately, they're not.
I want to make use of you, actually, because I think what you've said is very, very true. And one of the massive strengths we have at the BCC and the South Yorkshire Chambers is lobbying, we are very, very powerful lobbyists. And I use the director of trade policy from the BCC, William Bain, who is meeting every week with ministers and organisations. And together, William and I have made 3 major policy changes since the pandemic. Now, what you just said, about incentives, corporate, that is so good. And I'd love to come and see you and talk about this and introduce you to William and put you on a pedestal as the voice of SMEs, about that, because, it was really powerful what you just said. And I want to capture that.
It's what we live and breathe every day, to be honest, Nick.
But not many people say it like that, and yet this is affecting all companies, especially SMEs who are trying to get into export. And frankly, the support SMEs have in the UK is pretty miserable compared to our European
Very
competitors.
good. Yes, you're right, exactly right. Because we go to these exhibitions now. We'll be the only British company at the biggest construction exhibition in northern Germany. In September. We've been the only British company there the last 4 years, I believe. Not even JCB are there. And
can't afford it.
Yeah, they're pulled out of them because they're too expensive, but they're established. I forget where I was going there, Nick. But sorry.
I mean, in any case, I think what's really great is that we've got something to take forward here, haven't we? And this is what the purpose of these insights projects are all about. So just to finish us up, because obviously we've got about 5 minutes before we have to wrap up. The end of the QES results, there was optimism. So what are those reasons to be cheerful, just to round everything up that we've spoken about today?
Okay. Right. From a food industry point of view, the reasons to be cheerful are you'll have seen the inflation rate at 3.6%. I think the food inflation was somewhere around about 4.5%. Now, I believe from a food manufacturing point of view, that they must have caught those food inflation numbers at a bit of a peak, because the industry that we feel as though it's cooling significantly, and food prices will come down to below the 4.5. I think it will be lower than the 3.5, and it'll sort of settle round about 3%. So I think
that comes out in the survey as well. Everybody is predicting that their other costs will come down as well.
Yeah. So, but it's getting over that hump for people like ourselves with the increased costs. So the optimistic bit for us is that if you've got volume and you're making lots of widgets, it's having finance capital and throwing that at it to reduce your costs, because competition, there is a bit of there is competition out there. There is people out there cutting prices to gain volume, and I've seen this time and time before. That will never last, because the margins disappear, and the volumes would disappear as well at some stage. So the optimistic aspect is it will settle, and I think margins will improve, but it will take some time. But the government has really got to look at taxing businesses less, so that we can invest.
Thank you. So and that rounds things off really nicely. So the next quarterly economic survey, as I said before, is on AI business readiness, and we'll be ready to play that back to you in the autumn, in October. But the field work begins on the 18th of August to the 15th of September. So obviously I'd encourage you to put that out for your business networks when it comes through. If anybody, what I'll do is after this call, I'll just send you a couple of bullet points from what was discussed today, so you can put it in your internal notes for circulation, in case that's handy for everybody. But I just want to say thank you to Simca for sponsoring the QES and for all of your support in directing some of this. And I hope everybody on the call has found it useful. Thank you to John, and by extension to Nick as well for that really valuable insight. Really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.